First of all self-respecting Zoo Tycooners should have a real sandbox map, and the game doesn't give you one, so we just pick the Grassland City Zoo large map and just completely wipe it clean. We do this by first removing the entrance and the path, and then we cover the entire map with a polar ice biome, which really allows us to see everything we need to remove and to flatten. Then when we have done that, we just cover it with grass again and save it, so that every time we want to start something new, we can just open up the zoo and start building away. This map is great because it has this nice city skyline, but I also have one with the normal grassland large map to just give me a normal grassland background, because not every zoo is in the middle of the city, of course. You can also do this with any kind of map, obviously, but I just really enjoy building on grassland kind of stuff. I should say that everything in this video uses my mod pack, so if you are following this, I would highly suggest you downloading my mod pack. I highly suggest anyone doing that anyway, but for this video specifically, it would be useful. For paths, I think you all know how to place down paths, but we have these two types of paths for most of the default ones. We have a curved one and one with a little box on the icon. The little box in the icon gives you these sharper edges, the square paths, which are great for just some variation, and especially when working with square fences and sharp edge fences, you will get rid of these irritating little pieces of path inside your exhibit by just picking this one. When you don't know how to use the stairs, it can be kind of tricky at first, but they are actually really easy. So you just place them down and then place an elevator path next to it, one block above the normal height. And then you raise the terrain underneath it to fit the height you want to achieve, because this will automatically put it on the right height for the stairs. And just flatten it to make sure everything is on the same height. Then you can remove the elevator path and place a fence along the upper side of the stair to make sure you don't interact with the upper part of the terrain again. And then just flatten the underside of it like so. And then finally just place a diagonal piece of fence over the stairs like so, and you have perfect little stairs, which you can use all alongside your park to really create some depth and stuff, and stairs just add a lot. One of the greatest things about mods is that we are now able to build aviaries in Zoo Tycoon 2, which is something which was severely lacking in the base game, and is something every respectable zoo should be able to have. So first we of course place the fencing, and then we just make the roof with a normal solid elevator path. And then after that we trace it with one of the transparent paths, so with the chain link, the glass, the iron bars, it all works the same like this, and this is just the best way to do it. So afterwards just make the paths invisible and remove the pillars, and you have yourself a beautiful little aviary. Really easy. However, it doesn't end there. We can also make some cooler shapes with aviaries, and we can use corners for the roofs and stuff, but these are a little bit trickier and weirder to use. But it's something I really like doing, because these dynamic kind of shapes for aviaries really add something and just all around look really cool. So first you place the lowest section of the roof, and we start off with these diagonal pieces. These diagonal pieces, place 4 of them at the same time, and then you can just remove the ones you don't need. And it actually works the same for the corner pieces and the in-corner pieces and stuff. So it's a bit of a weird way to do it, and very time consuming when doing very large aviaries, but it is pretty much the only way to do it in Zoo Tycoon 2. And when you have the final result there, it looks really cool, and the more time you spend on it, the more rewarding the final result is. So yeah. One of my favorite things to see in this game is good looking buildings, and we achieve that by just using all kinds of random objects to simulate good looking stuff. So as you can see, you can use these pillars to make narrower doors and stuff to make it look a bit more realistic than these huge 3x3 doors. And you can also just use the pillars for all kinds of depth in buildings, because these normal grey boxes are not fun to look at all. You can also use these pillars for supports for these overhanging kind of stuff to make it look a lot more realistic. And for that we also have all kinds of pillars by the Zeta Designs building packs, which you can use, like these ones, which look great for these overhanging structures. And you also just have the regular darker pillars, like these, which fit perfectly underneath an elevated path. But for the corners of buildings we also have these pillars in the building tab, like these, which just fit perfectly to the side of these walls, which can be used to add depth to bigger buildings, like so. Another great thing to use for buildings are these canopy kind of things, which also place down 4 objects, of which you then can remove 3 to create a cool looking overhanging thing. And you also have these beautiful borders which you can use just to create rims for buildings or to create fences. They have lots of purposes and I really enjoy seeing those being used creatively. Then once you want to get really cool with your object usage, you can create all kinds of stuff with just really random objects, like not even pillars but just bookshelves and stairs and stuff, and that's something I really like doing on my channel and something I've learned from Planet Coaster and will hopefully start doing in Planet Zoo. But as you can see, you can use these bookshelves to create rims for tiny wooden buildings, and it just adds a lot of depth and just something interesting to look at in these buildings. And something I use in pretty much every single exhibit ever is sinking these chairs into the wall, just like so, and then adding a dark case, just like so. And then we have a little door for animals to go through. Obviously they can't really use it, but for all intended purposes of looking good, it works perfectly. And I've seen other people use doors like these, just placing a big table and then adding the bookshelves behind it, and I'm sure there are lots of more options to be discovered if people start using objects in these kinda weird ways. And I think it's a cool little thing. Then another very important thing for zoo building are the logs, which are just amazing and very versatile, but they can be kinda weird to use at first. So you have these large logs which have various varieties, and these small logs which also have various varieties, which you can also use to create fences and stuff. But for the real purpose of it, to create climbing structures, they are just kind of building blocks which you put together, and it takes some getting used to know which ones you have, but you have various different angles and various different lengths and thicknesses and various different heights, which you can just all use like this to create a better looking climbing structure than I am building right here. But you can also, for any object with various varieties, you can just use the eyedropper tool to get the exact one you want, like this, because if you just place the normal ones, you have various different heights, and that can be very tedious when you want one single one. Then let's get into some foliage work. These grasses are of course amazing to use, but as you can see they are kind of blocky. We have these grasses in different types. You have the normal one, we have 2 in the tropical rainforest section, a dark one and a very vibrant dark one, and we have also one in savanna and one in tundra. As you can see they are very blocky, and so in this mod pack I've created these 3 little grasses, one which is as tiny as the normal ones, which are just great for tiny details and stuff, and the others are also really cool to use. But the main purpose of them originally was to be able to get rid of these blocky bits of grass and just make them a lot more organic by adding the tiny grasses to the side of it, like so. And it just makes it look a whole lot better and less gamey. There are a set amount of bushes and grasses I like using, and they are these ones. Most of them are found in the grassland section, but some of them are found in the temperate forest section. And these are just the ones I personally find it to be the most realistic and best looking ones, because as you can see they all kind of fit together and have generally the same color scheme, and none of them are too unrealistically vibrant. So I just really enjoy using these all around all of my exhibits really. Then for some larger foliage I normally go for these bushes in the temperate forest section. These have various variants and these are just great for filler. And then also a couple of them in the shrub biome, which look really cool. You have these, and these. And then also a very big pine bush in the boreal forest section, which I don't use all that often, but is really good for background foliage as well. As far as background foliage is concerned, nothing is better than the king of all background foliage, being the Gaia bush, and in this mod pack I have various different varieties of them. As you can see, the icons are a bit weird and take some getting used to, but they are there for all intended purposes. So you have these, the lowest ones of each one of them is exactly the same, but in very different colors and different tints and different textures. And some look better than others, some have more opportunities to shine than others, and some just complement each other better than others. But they are all options to use in your zoos. And the standard normal one at the back here also has a smaller variant, which is great to place in front of the others as a transitional bush. And these are just great to fill up the background of your exhibit. Then as far as ground textures are concerned, when you have this big dirt patch, it quickly becomes very boring and bland and unrealistic. So what I always like doing is adding in temperate forest ground and boreal forest ground and some wetland forest ground underneath some bushes and stuff, just to make it a bit more interesting. I also like using little ditches, little bumps with a very small tool, and then smoothing it all afterwards to create a much more interesting looking and much more realistic looking ground floor, which is way better than just a flat one. Pretty much the same goes for the grass textures. I really like using the coastal texture in general more than the grassland texture because I think it looks a bit more realistic, but it can also be used as nice highlights to the other grass textures. And the boreal forest one looks great, and the wetland forest one has its purpose as well. Also especially underneath other foliage. And for grass textures I like using a bit more of a bigger brush to make it look a bit more smooth, just like in real life. And obviously this doesn't look good on its own, but it's just to show you that also with grass you can be a bit more creative than just plopping down normal grass everywhere. And then last but certainly not least, when you have a big background of all kinds of similar looking trees, or in this case exactly the same trees, all bundled up together, it quickly becomes very stale and game looking and unrealistic because they are all the same height. So a quick tip for that is to raise and lower some of them, especially if they're very close together, because that just makes it look a lot more dynamic and more interesting and just all around more realistic. It's a very subtle and often unnoticed touch, but it really adds a lot, I think at least, and makes stuff look more realistic. And that concludes all of my tips for Zoo Tycoon 2. Now obviously I'm not some all-knowing being when it comes to Zoo Tycoon 2, I just get lots of people asking me how I build and asking for tips on their builds and stuff, so I figured why not make a video on all of the stuff I do when I build. So yeah, obviously not everything is perfect. If you think some things are stupid or if you think I forgot some stuff, please do tell me in the comments down below so other people can also learn from it and I can also learn from it. In the background right now you see all kinds of pictures of exhibits and zoos made by other people in the Zoo Tycoon 2 Endgame project, which is a project which we are doing right now over on a new Discord server, which is in the description down below. Where we do a kind of multiplayer Zoo Tycoon in a hope to get as many people playing Zoo Tycoon 2 together again before Planet Zoo comes around, as a kind of final farewell and thank you to this 15-year-old game. So anyone's welcome to join, there are pretty much no restrictions, so please come check it out. Yeah, that's it I guess. Thanks for watching and goodbye.